Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Dever, and today we're going to learn about histograms. Now, histograms, if you look at the picture, look a lot like a bar graph, but there's two major differences. The one is that the bars always touch. So if we look at a bar graph, it is not necessary for the bars to touch each other. However, in a histogram, that is necessary. We always want the bars to touch each other. Whoops, can I grab this? Let me get that out of there. The other difference is that the width of the bar actually represents a quantity. So here, this is from 50.5 to 60.5, 60.5 to 70.5. So the bar's width represents 10, maybe dollars when we're talking wages. In a bar graph, the width, we make all the widths the same, but they don't represent a specific number. So let's try our first histogram. Here's the data. So a committee recorded the ages of 40 professors that are in the College of Arts and Sciences, and their ages to the nearest year gives us the following results. We're going to do three things. We're going to make a frequency table showing all this, and we're going to learn what all this is. We're going to draw a histogram and then a frequency polygon. So fill in your sheet as we go. The first thing is we want to find out what the class width is, and that is what that number along the x-axis represents, what the width of each of the bars of the histogram represents. And we get this by taking the largest data value, in this case the oldest professor, 68, minus the lowest data value, the youngest professor is 24, and divide by the number of bars, the number of classes that we want. And that's usually given to us in a problem. In this case, it said 5 classes. So we're going to have 5 bars. Divide by 5. This gives me 44 divided by 5, which is 8.8. No matter what number we get here, you want to round up to the nearest integer. So if we got an 8.1, I would round up to 9. If I got an 8.4, I would round up to 9. If I got an 8, I would round up to 9. Always, whatever number you get, round up to the next integer. So 9 is my class width. I'm going to fill out the limits first. The lowest value, my youngest professor, is 24. And now I'm going to add my class width. I'm going to add 9, and add 9, and add 9, and again add 9. So my first bar is going to be all the professors aged 24 to, well, it would have to be to 32, because this next one starts at the age of 33, so it'd be 33 to 41, because this one starts at 42, so 42 to 50, 51 to 59. Now here, this last bar, what do I have to go to? Well, on the previous bar I added 8, 8, 8, 8. So here I'm also going to add 8. So 60 to 68, which does include my oldest professor. So I included all my data points, which is good. If I didn't, then I did something wrong. The problem is right now, if I graph these, there would be gaps. I'd end at 32, and then the next bar would start at 33. I'd end at 41, the next bar would start at 42. There'd be a slight gap between each bars. So to fill in those gaps, we create our boundaries for the histogram. And I just fill in the gaps by taking this 24 and going a half less than it, 23 and a half more than that, 32 and a half. So it'll look like this, 23 and a half to 32 and a half. I'm going to go a half less than this, 32 and a half more than the 41, 41 and a half less than 42, a half more than 50. And you can see what I'm doing is I'm limiting the gaps. I'm eliminating the gaps. This ends at 32 and a half. This begins at 32 and a half. This bar ends at 41 and a half. The next bar begins at 41 and a half. So my next bar would be 50 and a half to 59 and a half, and 59 and a half to 68 and a half. Those are the boundaries of the bars of the histogram. Midpoints are just what is the middle number of each bar. To find the midpoints, down here, class midpoint, I take the lower class limit and the upper class limit and average them together. So for example, 24 plus 32 divided by 2. Let's see, that's 56 divided by 2, 28. The number that comes between 24 and 32 is 28. 33 and 41 averaged together is 37. And I continue to do this through. Now, notice there's a difference of 9 here because my class width is 9. So the midpoints are also going to occur every 9. So add 9, add 9, add 9. Or I could add these up and divide by 2 and I'd get the same results. The frequency is how many data points fit within our limits or our boundaries. So I want to know all the professors, how many professors have an age between 24 and 32. So I'm going to go back and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 professors. So my frequency is 9. Now I want all the professors whose ages are from 33 to 41. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 this time. So I have 10 professors in that age range. 42 to 50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 51 to 59. 1, 2, 3, 4, just 4 professors in that range. And then the rest of the professors are in this 60 to 68 range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 professors. We have all our data now. This is called our frequency table. And we're going to take that data and translate it into a histogram. So my frequency is already listed along my y-axis. My age is going to be along my x-axis, and then I'm going to make my histogram, which looks like a bar graph, except remember the width represents a number and the bars do not have any gaps between them. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to skip a couple spaces. This is going to be 23.5. Going to skip a space, 32.5, skip a space there, 41.5, and continue every other to label those boundaries that I have on my frequency table. Okay, so now to create the actual graph, I know that this goes up to 9 right here. There are 9 people within this age range. In my next age range, I have 10 professors. And then 9. And then there's that big drop of 4. And then I'm up to 8 for my last group. Let me see if I can shade these in. Okay, it's not wanting to shade in that last one for me, but you get the idea. So that is my histogram. Finally, part C says draw the frequency polygon. So to draw the frequency polygon, we go to the midpoint. The midpoint are these points that are halfway between. The first midpoint we got was 28, and then 37, 46, 55, and finally 64. And at that midpoint, we mark the spot where the frequency is. And now I'm going to draw my polygon. I take a straight edge and I go from this first midpoint to the next one, and I continue connecting the consecutive midpoints. Right now, this is not a polygon. So to make it a polygon, I have to connect it, and I connect it to the x-axis. I go a space before my first bar and put a dot there and connect those up. And then I go from this last midpoint to 0 on my x-axis, a space after that last limit on my x-axis. So that red line, if you connect it with the x-axis, is a polygon. That's called the frequency polygon. So that's our first example with histograms.